Apples in autumn. I realized I had fallen in love with her in September. I had loved Sophie long before that, of course. You can't share an apartment with someone for 2 years without falling for the way sunlight dances in her chestnut hair, or the sound of her laughter drifting through the air like music. Every day felt like a new chapter in our story, brightened by shared meals and cozy movie nights. But that September morning, I woke up to a different kind of emotion, an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The fresh aroma of pancakes wafted into the bedroom, and I caught a glimpse of Sophie in the kitchen, her apron tied around her waist, flipping pancakes with precision. It was just another morning, but the sight of her, so content and immersed in her routine, struck a chord deep within me. "Morning, sleepyhead," she called, glancing over her shoulder as I shuffled into the kitchen. "Hope you like pancakes because I made a whole stack. Is that a challenge?" I joked, ruffling my messy hair as I poured myself a cup of coffee. With a playful smile, Sophie placed a towering stack of pancakes in front of me. "Only if you think you can handle it." As I dove into the fluffy stack, I felt a warmth within me, not just from the food, but from the love and comfort we shared. It was a feeling that had been building for a while, but that day it crystallized into something solid. That was also the day she mentioned wanting to go apple picking. "You know, it's the start of fall, and we should do something special," Sophie suggested, her sparkling gray eyes lighting up with excitement. "I love the idea of getting apples and making cider. It's the perfect way to kick off the season." "Apple picking it is," I agreed, motivated not just by the prospect of apples but by the enthusiasm radiating from her. I loved how her spirit seemed to capture the essence of the season. So, with our plans set, we plotted a trip to an orchard at the end of the week, and I couldn't contain my own excitement. On the day of our outing, Sophie and I proceeded with a leisurely morning, fueled by laughter and warm coffee as we joked about who could find the biggest apple. Before that, I slipped into my favorite plaid shirt, feeling snug and ready for the crisp autumn air. The drive to the orchard was filled with animated chatter about what we might bake with our bounty. "How about applesauce? Or the classic pie?" Sophie suggested, her voice brimming with ideas. "If we pick enough, we could try them all," I replied, feeling our shared excitement propel me into the moment. When we finally arrived, the orchard stretched out before us, a canvas of vibrant reds and oranges. It felt magical, like stepping into a storybook. The intoxicating scent of ripe apples swirled in the air, and laughter echoed as families filled the rows of trees. "Look, apples!" Sophie exclaimed, a gleeful spark in her eyes. She dashed ahead, her hair bouncing as she ran, while I trailed behind, soaking in the scene around me. As we began to pick apples, our playful competition intensified. Sophie climbed onto a low branch to reach for the biggest apple she could find. "I found the mother lode," she shouted, grinning madly. "Cheater!" I laughed, unable to hide the affection in my voice. The day unfolded as a delightful escapade filled with laughter and shared stories. We picked apples until our baskets were brimming with red and green treasures, and I relished each moment spent watching Sophie immerse herself in the experience. "I love this place," Sophie exclaimed, turning to face me with a bright smile, her cheeks flushed from the crisp air. "It really is perfect," I agreed, feeling a wave of warmth as I admired her spirit. After picking apples, we settled down for a picnic under a large oak tree. The smell of warm cinnamon and baked treats from other families wafted around us, and I pulled out the homemade sandwiches I had prepared for our outing. "So, what's our plan with all these apples?" I asked, taking a bite of my sandwich, feeling content and happy. "I think we need to have a baking day," Sophie replied. We could also explore making an apple pie together. It could be a fun experiment. And that was when I realized Sophie wasn't just my best friend. She was my partner in everything. Aside from my heart, she had woven herself into every layer of my life, and that thought brought an overwhelming surge of affection. But then the realization hit her, an extra layer of vulnerability creeping into her eyes. I just hope I don't mess it up. Baking with you means a lot. I really want to make this special. The sincerity in her voice made my heart swell. We're a team, sophomore. Whatever happens, I promise we'll have fun. That's all that matters. As the afternoon turned to evening, we continued with our light-hearted discussions, full of the promise of what was to come. With each laugh, I felt that I was falling deeper into a beautiful adventure filled with potential, love, and warmth. Look at those colors in the sky, Sophie said, pausing as she glanced overhead. I turned to see shades of pink and purple melding together as the sun set behind the orchard. It really is breathtaking, I agreed, feeling grateful for this day, for this experience, and most importantly for her. As we packed up to head home, an idea sparked in my heart. Sophie, I want to do more things with you together. More adventures, more baking, more everything. Sophie smiled, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Me too. I'm all for making more memories just like this one. And in that moment, I realized that this attachment was something special. Not merely a friendship or a partnership, but a deeper connection blossoming within our hearts. Weeks passed after our day at the orchard, and I found myself caught up in the magic of autumn. Together, we spent evenings baking, capturing the essence of the season in apple pies, crisps, and even creative apple cider drinks. With every layer of flour and sugar, our camaraderie deepened, and I cherished every moment spent with Sophie. One crisp Saturday, while we were curled up on the couch with the smell of freshly baked pie still wafting through the air, I turned to her as something finally clicked, the realization I had been trying to pin down. Sophie, I began cautiously, you mean so much to me. I don't want just the friendship anymore. I want to take a step further. Sophie looked at me, surprise and delight dawning in her expression. You mean like a relationship? Yes, I replied, my heart racing. I think we could be great together, even beyond baking pies and picking apples. Sophie's face softened, wonder pooling in her eyes. I've been thinking about this too. I want to take that step with you. In that moment, my heart soared. I knew I could keep falling in love with Sophie because she was everything. My partner, my adventure buddy, and my heart's delight. As we leaned into each other, surrounded by the aromas of sweets and laughter, I felt grateful for that crisp autumn day that led us to this connection, and I realized my heart was ready for every single shared moment to come. Together, we could embrace the beauty of love wrapped in the layers of everyday life, forever falling for one another with each little moment shared. The leaves continued to change colors, the vibrant reds, yellows, and oranges creating a kaleidoscope around Maplewood. Sophie and I immersed ourselves in this visual feast, planning more excursions as the season progressed. The cool air filled our weekends with the promise of adventure, and soon enough, it became clear that we had opened the door to something beautiful together. Our weekends were filled with laughter and playful banter, whether it was at the local farmer's market picking out pumpkins, or cozy evenings experimenting with new recipes in the kitchen. The apple pies we had made became a staple, with friends and neighbors eagerly awaiting a taste of our creations. As one particularly brisk Saturday approached, I invited Sophie to join me at an annual fall festival. The event was buzzing with energy, pumpkin carving contests, hayrides under the stars, and stalls filled with homemade goodies. I can't believe it's finally here, Sophie exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with joy as we parked the car and hopped out, the crunch of fallen leaves beneath our boots. This is going to be so much fun. It better be worth the hype, I teased, nudging her shoulder as we walked toward the festival grounds, the sweet scent of caramel apples mingling with spiced cider cider wafting through the air. As we entered the festival, lights twinkled above, illuminating the pathway. Laughter and chatter erupted around us as families and friends enjoyed the festivities. "So, what do you want to hit first?" I asked, glancing around, allowing the excitement to bubble within me. "Pumpkin carving," Sophie declared, her face lighting up. "But only if you promise to help me carve a cat. You know how I feel about cats." "Deal. A cat it is." I laughed, imagining how intricate and creative we could get with a pumpkin. We made our way to the pumpkin carving station, where we picked out the largest pumpkin we could find and joined the line. While waiting, we chatted animatedly about everything from our past Halloween experiences to our dreams for the future. It felt as though the world around us faded, leaving only our bubble of connection. Once we had our pumpkin and tools in hand, we settled down at a wooden table. Sophie laid out the pumpkin before us, her eyes gleaming with determination. "All right, let's bring this cat to life." "Let's do this," I said, grabbing the carving knife and pulling the top off the pumpkin in one swift motion. Sophie wrinkled her nose playfully, and we both erupted into laughter at the resulting gooey chaos. After clearing out the pumpkin's insides, we sketched out our design: big eyes, pointed ears, and the quintessential whiskers, and began carving. The sun began to set, casting a cozy blanket of warmth around us while the lights of the festival flickered on around us. As we focused on our task, Sophie's laughter was infectious, punctuating our segment of time together. After some giggles, we held up our finished creation, a quirky, enchanting cat that looked both mischievous and adorable. "Tajda!" Sophie exclaimed, striking a pose beside the masterpiece. "I think we've outdone ourselves." "Absolutely. I'm confident this will take home first prize," I joked, then added, "or at least a few giggles from the judges." Once the carving contest was complete, we took our pumpkin to the lighting area. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we placed our luminary outside amidst others, watching the light flicker through the carved eyes and smile. "Look at how great it looks," Sophie said, her enthusiasm contagious as she admired our handiwork. Torches and lanterns illuminated the surrounding areas, and a hint of magic hung in the air. We took a moment to soak it all in while munching on warm caramel apples nearby, their sticky sweetness contrasting with the cool evening breeze. "Can we add more stuff to our date next time?" Sophie asked as we sat on the grass, clutching our treats. "Like more fall activities? I want to make this a thing." "Absolutely. We need to squeeze every last drop of autumn out of this season," I replied. "I can already think of hayrides and haunted corn mazes." As we chatted about future plans, I felt a warm sense of fulfillment, the happiness in her eyes reflected in my heart. "What about you, Sophie? Do you have any other ideas swirling around?" "Well," she began slowly as though deep in thought, "I've always loved the idea of going to a pumpkin patch for photo ops and finding an epic pumpkin. Now there's a challenge I can get behind." I laughed. "Finding the best pumpkin for our next baking adventure." The night continued, filled with laughter and conversations as we strolled from booth to booth, trying funnel cakes, hot apple cider, and riding the Ferris wheel. As we rose into the air, looking down at the vibrant festival below, it was hard not to feel like life was taking us on a new adventure, one I was eager to dive into. "You know," Sophie said, her voice slightly raised above the noise, "I'm really glad we've gotten closer these past few weeks. I never thought I could share so much with anyone." "I feel the same," I replied, my heart swelling. "You make life not only fun but also meaningful." As we returned to the ground, the ride ended, and our feet hit the grassy soil once again. That was when I took a breath, a mix of excitement and determination washing over me. "Sophie," I said, pausing before I continued, "I want to explore more with you. Not just seasonal activities or pumpkin adventures, but, well, just everything. I feel like we might be building towards something beautiful together." Sophie looked at me, her expression both surprised and joyful. "You want that too. Idol. I think we make a great team whether it's in the kitchen or out on these adventures, I said, vulnerability creeping into my voice. And I'm ready to see where it leads. A smile blossomed on Sophie's face as her warmth radiated through the cool night air. Count me in. I'm excited to see what's next. As long as it's with you. The sincerity behind her words bolstered my confidence, and together we moved through the rest of the evening hand in hand, each moment affirming that the feelings we had for each other were blossoming into something truly profound. As we headed back home, I felt an electrifying sense of anticipation. The autumn leaves crunched beneath our feet, mirroring the joyous rhythm of my heart. With every shared laugh and glance, I could feel us growing closer, falling deeper into a connection that was sweet as the treats we had shared. And as we looked forward to our next adventure, I knew that the memories we created would only lay the foundation for the love story that was just beginning, each page filled with laughter, warmth, and the promise of unconditional support in whatever awaited us. The following days slipped by in a delightful blur of fall festivities and shared experiences. Sophie and I were building a rhythm together filled with laughter, warmth, and the joy of discovering each other's quirks. The weeks rolled into a beautiful mesh of cozy weekends, late-night baking sessions, and casual dinners filled with impromptu moments that made my heart flutter. Our next adventure was to be a weekend camping trip at Maplewood State Park. The idea had sprouted during one of our post-dinner chats after watching a movie set in the wilderness, a cozy romance that called to both of our adventurous spirits. I can't believe we've never done this before, Sophie said as we packed our gear. The sunlight streaming through the window highlighted her eager expression, and I admired the way her brown hair reflected the light like spun gold. I know, it's crazy, I replied, tossing in extra marshmallows for Esmeralda. I've been itching to get out into nature, especially with the fall colors peaking. The morning of our trip arrived sunny and brisk, absolutely perfect for a day outdoors. We loaded up my old SUV with camping essentials, cozy blankets, and plenty of snacks, a sense of excitement buzzing in the air. As we drove deeper into the park, the trees began to thin, opening up to breathtaking views of the golden foliage surrounding us. Look at those colors, Sophie exclaimed, nearly bouncing in her seat. I can't believe how beautiful it all is. Just wait until we set up camp. The real magic happens at sunset, I said, keeping my eyes on the winding road ahead. Upon arrival, we strolled around the campgrounds to find the perfect spot nestled among the trees. We pitched the tent together, with Sophie's impromptu commentary about camping necessities and survival skills turning into a light-hearted competition of who could set things up faster. We make a great team, don't we? Sophie said between giggles as I wrestled with the tent stakes, trying to hammer them into the ground. Absolutely, although I think you might have some kind of ulterior motive, I teased. You just want the campfire for the Esmeralda. You caught me, she laughed, feigning innocence. But Esmeraldas are essential camping food. It's a rule. After our campsite was finally ready, we set off on a hike along the nearby trails. The crunch of leaves beneath our feet created a soothing rhythm as we moved through rows of trees, their branches painting the sky above us with fiery colors. Do you remember the first time we went apple picking? Sophie asked as we walked, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Of course. How could I forget your frantic search for the perfect apple? I replied, playfully mimicking her panicked expressions during our outing. I was committed, she laughed and then added, just like I'm committed to making this camping trip epic. With each step, our conversations shifted from memories to dreams, from silly stories to serious aspirations. I began to see deeper layers to Sophie, and with every word, I felt my affection for her solidify into something more meaningful. As midday approached, we reached a clearing with a scenic view overlooking a small pond, glistening under the bright sun. Let's rest here, I suggested, feeling the pull of the beautiful scenery. We settled on a a blanket, savoring the snacks we packed, from crunchy apples to deli sandwiches. Our food spread mirrored the spirit of our blossoming relationship, comfortable, inviting, and filled with delightful surprises. After we eat, should we relax and enjoy the view? Sophie suggested, biting into her apple. It's so peaceful here. Definitely. I could sit here for hours, I agreed, gazing out at the rippling water as it reflected the autumn leaves above. As we finished our meal, we fell into a comfortable silence, both of us soaking in the magic of the moment, the vibrant colors, the gentle rustle of leaves, and the sweet aroma of the forest air. Sophie, I began cautiously, my heart now pounding a bit louder. I've been wanting to talk to you about something. She turned her head to look at me, her expression shifting to one of curiosity. What's on your mind? I know we've been having so much fun together, and I can't help but think that maybe we're building something not just fun, but really special, I said, feeling the heat creeping up my neck. Sophie's eyes widened slightly, her mouth quirking into a smile. I feel it too, Ellie. Good, I continued, feeling a surge of relief. But I also want to make sure we're on the same page. I want to grow more with you. Her smile widened, and I could see the excitement in her eyes. Absolutely. I'm ready to explore whatever this is between us. You feel like home to me. The weight of my confession felt like a relief, and I found myself grinning back at her, comforted by her warmth. So, how about we promise to keep exploring together? No hiding our thoughts or feelings. Just honesty, okay? Deal. Sophie stretched out her pinky towards me, and without hesitation, I wrapped mine around hers, sealing our agreement with a playful laugh. With our bond strengthened and our hearts aligned, we returned to our campsite as the sun began to set, casting brilliant oranges and purples across the sky. Together, we lit a campfire, the warmth of the flames crackling against the chill of the approaching evening. As we roasted marshmallows for Esmeralda, I felt richer than ever in that moment. The flickering flames illuminated Sophie's face, casting shadows that danced along with the light. This trip has been the best, Sophie said, her voice tinged with wonder as she toasted her marshmallow. I wouldn't trade this for anything. Me neither, I agreed, feeling a sense of belonging I had longed for. It was in these simple moments, surrounded by nature and with Sophie beside me, that I truly felt anchored. As the dusk settled, we shared our Esmeraldas, laughter punctuating the cool night air, and the sky grew darker, revealing a blanket of stars sparkling overhead. The world felt infinite, and I resolved to embrace every moment with Sophie as we ventured forth together. That night, as we cozied into our sleeping bags beneath the starlit sky, I felt a tranquility that felt like a promise of new beginnings. With Sophie by my side, I was eager to fall in love all over again, knowing that the kind of love we were building could withstand the seasons of life, no matter what came our way. And as I closed my eyes, the sound of her breathing beside me was the sweetest lullaby, wrapping me in warmth and certainty that this was just the start of our adventures together.